Welcome everyone to our Sunday Krishna book reading to Srila Prabhupada. And before we begin, we'll offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paskacha Deshatarane Vanchakalpa Durubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So all of you online, you can take your Krishna books out, and this week we're on chapter 58, 5 Queens Married by Krishna. As mentioned in the last chapter, there was a great rumor that the 5 Pandava brothers, along with their mother Kunti, had died according to the plan of the sons of Dhritarashtra in a fire accident in the house of lac in which they were living. But then the 5 brothers were detected at the marriage ceremony of Draupadi. So another rumor spread that the Pandavas and their mother were not dead. It was a rumor, but actually it was so. They returned to their capital city, Hastinapura, and people saw them face to face. When this news was carried to Krishna and Balaram, Krishna wanted to see them personally, and therefore he decided to go to Hastinapura.
This time, Krishna visited Hastinapur in state as a royal prince, accompanied by his commander-in-chief, Yuyudhana, and by many other soldiers. He had not actually been invited to visit the city, yet he went to see the Pandavas out of his affection for his great devotees. He visited the Pandavas without warning, and all of them got up from their respective seats as soon as they saw him. Krishna is called Mukunda because as soon as one comes in constant touch with Krishna or sees him in full Krishna consciousness, one immediately becomes freed from all material anxieties. Not only that, but one is immediately blessed with all spiritual bliss.
Receiving Krishna, the Pandavas were enlivened, just as if awakened from unconscious or loss of life. When a man is lying unconscious, his senses and the different parts of his body are inactive. But when he regains his consciousness, the senses immediately become active. Similarly, the Pandavas received Krishna as if they had just regained their consciousness, and so they were very much enlivened. Lord Krishna embraced every one of them, and by the touch of Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Pandavas immediately became freed from all reactions of material contamination and were therefore smiling in spiritual bliss. But by seeing the face of Lord Krishna, everyone was transcendently satisfied. Lord Krishna, although the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was playing the part of an ordinary human being, and thus he immediately touched the feet of Yudhishthira and Bhima because they were his 2 older cousins. Arjuna embraced Krishna as a friend of the same age, whereas the 2 younger brothers, namely Nagula and Sakadeva, touched the lotus feet of Krishna to show him respect. After an exchange of greetings according to the social ethic befitting the position of the Pandavas and Lord Krishna, Krishna was offered an exalted seat. When he was comfortably seated, the newly married Draupadi, young and very beautiful in her natural feminine gracefulness, came before Lord Krishna to offer her respectful greetings. The Yadavas who accompanied Krishna to Hastinapura were also very respectfully received. Specifically, Satyaki or Yudhana was also offered a nice seat. In this way, when everyone else was properly seated, the five brothers took their seats near Lord Krishna.
After meeting with the five brothers, Lord Krishna personally went to visit Srimati Kunti Devi, the mother of the Pandavas, who was also the paternal aunt of Krishna. In offering his respects to his aunt, Krishna also touched her feet. Kunti Devi's eyes became wet, and, in great love, she feelingly embraced Lord Krishna. She then inquired from him about the well-being of her paternal family members, her brother Vasudeva, his wife, and other members of the family. Similarly, Krishna also inquired from his aunt about the welfare of the Pandava families. Although Kunti Devi was related to Krishna by family ties, she knew immediately after meeting him that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She remembered the past calamities of her life and how, by the grace of Krishna, the Pandavas and their mother had been saved. She knew perfectly well that no one, without Krishna's grace, could have saved them from the fire accident designed by Dhritarashtra and his sons. In a choked-up voice, she began to narrate before Krishna the past history of their life.
Srimati Kunti said, "My dear Krishna, I remember the day when you sent my brother Akrura to gather information about us. This means that you always remember us automatically. When you sent Akrura, I could understand that there was no possibility of our being put in danger. All good fortune in our life began when you sent Akrura to us. Since then, I have been convinced that we are not without protection. We may be put into various types of dangerous conditions by our family members, the Kurus, but I am confident that you remember us and always keep us safe and sound. Even ordinary devotees who simply think of you are always immune to all kinds of material danger, and what to speak of ourselves who are personally remembered by you. So, my dear Krishna, there is no question of bad luck. We are always in an auspicious position because of your grace. Yet, although you have bestowed a special favor on us, people should not mistakenly think that you are partial to some and inattentive to others. You make no such distinction. No one is your favorite and no one is your enemy. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are equal to everyone, and everyone can take advantage of your special protection. The fact is that although you are equal to everyone, you are especially inclined to the devotees who always think of you. The devotees are related to you by ties of love. As such, they cannot forget you even for a moment. You are present in everyone's heart, but because the devotees always remember you, you respond accordingly. Although a mother has affection for all her children, she takes special care of the one who is fully dependent. I know certainly, my dear Krishna, that being seated in everyone's heart, you always create auspicious situations for your unalloyed devotees."
Then, King Yudhishthira also praised Krishna as the Supreme Personality and the universal friend of everyone. But because Krishna was taking special care of the Pandavas, King Yudhishthira said, "My dear Krishna, we do not know what sort of pious activities we have executed in our past lives that have made you so kind and gracious to us. We know very well that the great mystics who always engage in meditation to capture you do not find it easy to obtain such grace, nor can they draw any personal attention from you, I cannot understand why you're so kind to us. We're not yogis. On the contrary, we're attached to material contaminations. We're householders, dealing in politics, worldly affairs. I do not know why you're so kind to us.
Being requested by King Yudhisthira, Krishna agreed to stay in Hastinapur for 4 months during the rainy season. The 4 months of the rainy season are called Chaturmasya. During this period, the generally itinerant preachers and brahmanas stop at a certain place and live under rigid regulative principles. Although Lord Krishna is above all regulative principles, he agreed to stay at Hastinapur out of affection for the Pandavas. Taking this opportunity of Krishna's residence in Hastinapur, all the citizens of the city got the privilege of seeing him now and then, and thus they merged into transcendental bliss simply by seeing Lord Krishna face to face.
One day, while Krishna was staying with the Pandavas, he and Arjuna prepared themselves to go to the forest to hunt. Both of them sat down on Arjuna's chariot, which flew a flag with a picture of Hanuman. Arjuna's special chariot is always marked with the picture of Hanuman, and therefore he is also named Kapid Raja. Kapi means Hanuman and Dvaraja means flag. Thus Arjuna prepared to go to the forest with his bow and infallible arrows. He dressed himself with suitable protective garments, for he was to practice for the time when he would be killing many enemies on the battlefield. He specifically entered that part of the forest where there are many tigers, deer, and various other animals. The reason Krishna went with Arjuna was not to practice animal killing, for he doesn't have to practice anything. He is self-sufficient. He accompanied Arjuna to see how he was practicing, because in the future he would have to kill many enemies. After entering the forest, Arjuna killed many tigers, boars, bison, gavaras, a kind of wild animal, rhinoceroses, deer, hares, porcupines, and similar other animals, which he pierced with his arrows. Some of the dead animals that were fit to be offered in sacrifices were carried by servants and sent to King Yudhisthira. The ferocious animals, such as tigers and rhinoceroses, were killed only to stop disturbances in the forest. Since there are many sages and saintly persons who are residents of the forest, it is the duty of the Kshatriya kings to keep even the forest in a peaceful condition for living.
Arjuna felt tired and thirsty from hunting, and therefore he went to the bank of the Yamuna along with Krishna. When both Krishna, namely Krishna and Arjuna, reached the bank of Yamuna, Arjuna sometimes called Krishna as Draupadi. They washed their hands, feet, mouth and drank the clear water of Yamuna. While resting and drinking water, they saw a beautiful girl of a marriageable age walking along on the bank of Yamuna. Krishna asked his friend Arjuna to go forward and ask the girl who she was. By ordering of the Krishna, Arjuna immediately approached the girl, who was very beautiful. She had an attractive body, nice glittering teeth and smiling face. Arjuna inquired, "My dear girl, you are so beautiful with your raised breasts. May I ask you, who are you? We are surprised to see you loitering here alone. What is your purpose in coming here? We can guess only that you are searching after a suitable husband. If you don't mind, you can disclose your purpose. I shall try to satisfy you.
The beautiful girl was the river Yamuna personified. She replied, Sir, I am the daughter of the sun god, and I am now performing penance and austerity to have Lord Vishnu as my husband. I think he is the supreme person and just suitable to become my husband. I disclose my desire, thus, 'cause you wanted to know it. The girl continued, My dear sir, I know that you are the hero, Arjuna, so I may further say that I shall not accept anyone as my husband besides Lord Vishnu, 'cause he is the only protector of all living entities and the bestower of liberation for all conditioned souls. I shall be thankful unto you if you pray to Lord Vishnu to be pleased with me. The girl Yamuna knew it well that Arjuna was a great devotee of the Lord, and that if he would pray, Krishna would never deny his request. To approach Krishna directly may sometimes be futile, but to approach Krishna through his devotee is sure to be successful. She further told Arjuna, My name is Kalindi, and I live within the waters of the Yamuna. My father was kind enough to construct a special house for me within the waters of the Yamuna, and I have vowed to remain in the water as long as I cannot find Lord Krishna. Arjuna duly carried the message of the girl Kalindi to Krishna. Although Krishna, as the super soul in everyone's heart, knew everything. Without further discussion, Krishna immediately accepted Kalindi and asked her to sit down on the chariot. Then all of them approached King Yudhishthira.
After this, Krishna was asked by King Yudhishthir to help in constructing a suitable house to be planned by the great architect Vishwakarma, the celestial engineer in the heavenly kingdom. Krishna immediately called for Vishwakarma and made him construct a wonderful city according to the desire of King Yudhishthir. When the city was constructed, Maharaj Yudhishthir requested Krishna to live with him for a few days more to give them the pleasure of his association. Lord Krishna accepted the request of Maharaj Yudhishthir and remained there for many days more. In the meanwhile, Krishna engaged in the pastime of offering the Kandava forest, which belonged to King Indra. Krishna wanted to give it to Agni, the fire god. The Kandava forest contained many varieties of drugs, and Agni required to eat them for rejuvenation. Agni, however, did not touch the Kandava forest directly, but requested Krishna to help him. Agni knew that Krishna was very much pleased with him because he had formerly given him the Sudarshan disc. So in order to satisfy Agni, Krishna became the chariot driver of Arjuna and both went to the Kandava forest. After Agni had eaten up the Kandava forest, he was very much pleased. At this time, he offered Arjuna a special bow known as Gandiva, 4 white horses, 1 chariot, and an invincible quiver with 2 special arrows considered to be talismans, which had so much power that no warrior could counteract them. When the Kandava forest was being devoured by the fire god Agni, there was a demon of the name Maya who was saved by Arjuna from the devastating fire. For this reason, that former demon became a great friend of Arjuna. And in order to please Arjuna, he constructed a nice assembly house within the city constructed by Vishwakarma. This assembly house had some corners so puzzling that when Duryodhan came to visit this house, he was misdirected, accepting water as land and land as water. Duryodhan was thus insulted by the opulence of the Pandavas, and he became their determined enemy.
After a few days, Lord Krishna took permission from King Yudhishthira to return to Dwaraka. When he got permission, he returned to his country accompanied by Satyaki, a leader of the Yadus, who were living in Hastinapura with him. Kalindi also returned with Krishna to Dwaraka. After returning, Krishna consulted many learned astrologers to find the suitable moment at which to marry Kalindi, and then he married her with great pomp. This marriage ceremony gave much pleasure to the relatives of both parties, and all of them enjoyed the great occasion.
The kings of Avantipur, now known as Ujjain, were named Vindhya and Anuvindhya. Both kings were under the control of Duryodhana. They had one sister named Mitravinda, who was a very qualified, learned, and elegant girl, the daughter of one of Krishna's aunts. She was to select her husband in an assembly of princes, but she strongly desired to have Krishna as her husband. During the assembly for selecting her husband, Krishna was present, and he forcibly carried away Mitravinda in the presence of all the other royal princesses. Being unable to resist Krishna, the princes were left simply looking at one another.
After this incident, Krishna married the daughter of the king of Kosala. The king of Kosala province was called Nagnajita. He was very pious and was a follower of the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. His most beautiful daughter was named Satya. Sometimes Satya was called Nagnajiti, for she was the daughter of King Nagnajit. King Nagnajit wanted to give the hand of his daughter to any princess who could defeat 7 very strong, stalwart bulls maintained by him. No one in the princely order could defeat the 7 bulls, and therefore no one could claim the hand of Satya. The 7 bulls were very strong, and they could hardly bear even the smell of any prince. Many princes visited this kingdom and tried to subdue the bulls, but instead of controlling them, they themselves were defeated. This news spread all over the country, and when Krishna heard that one could achieve the girl Satya only by defeating the 7 bulls, he prepared himself to go to the kingdom of Kosala with many soldiers. He approached that part of the country known as Ayodhya, making a regular state visit.
When it became known to the king of Kosala that Krishna had come to ask the hand of his daughter, he was very much pleased. With great respect and pomp, he welcomed Krishna to the kingdom. When Krishna approached him, he offered the Lord a suitable sitting place and articles for reception. Everything appeared very elegant. Krishna also offered him respectful obeisances, thinking him to be his future father-in-law. When Satya understood that Krishna himself had come to marry her, she was very much pleased that the husband of the goddess of fortune had so kindly come here to accept her. For a long time, she had cherished the idea of marrying Krishna and was following the principles of austerities to obtain her desired husband. She then began to think, if I have performed any pious activities to the best of my ability, and if I have sincerely thought all along to have Krishna as my husband, then Krishna may be pleased to fulfill my long cherished desire. She began to offer prayers to Krishna mentally, thinking, I do not know how the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be pleased with me. He is the Master and Lord of everyone. Even the Goddess of Fortune, whose place is next to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and many other demigods of different planets always offer their respectable obeisances unto the Lord. The Lord also sometimes descends to this earth in different incarnations to fulfill the desire of his devotees. He is so exalted and great that I do not know how to satisfy him. She thought that the Supreme Personality of Godhead could be pleased only out of his own causeless mercy upon the devotee. Otherwise, there was no means to please him. Lord Chaitanya, in the same way, prayed to his Siksastaka verses, My Lord, I am your eternal servant. Somehow or other, I have fallen into this material existence. If you kindly pick me up and fix me as an atom of dust at your lotus feet, it will be a great favor to your eternal servant. The Lord can be pleased only by a humble attitude in the service spirit. The more we render service unto the Lord under the direction of the spiritual master, the more we make advancement on the path approaching the Lord. We cannot demand any grace or mercy from the Lord because of our service rendered to Him. He may accept or not accept our service, but the only means to satisfy the Lord is through the service attitude and nothing else.
King Nagnajit was a pious king, and having Lord Krishna in his palace, he began to worship him to the best of his knowledge and ability. He presented himself before the Lord thus, My dear Lord, you are the proprietor of the whole cosmic manifestation, and you are Narayana, the resting place of all living creatures. You are self-sufficient and pleased with your personal opulences, so how can I offer you anything? And how can I please you by such an offering? It is not possible. Because I am an insignificant living being, actually I have no ability to render any service unto you. Krishna is the supersoul of all living creatures, so he could understand the mind of Satya. He was also very much pleased with the respectful worship of the king in offering him a sitting place, eatables, a residence, and so on. He was appreciative, therefore, that both the girl and the father were eager to have him as their intimate relative. He smiled and in a grave voice said, My dear King Nagnajit, you know very well that anyone in the princely order who is irregular in his position will never ask anything from anyone, however exalted he may be. Such requests by the Kshatriya king have been deliberately forbidden by the learned Vedic followers. If a Kshatriya breaks his regulation, his action is condemned by the learned scholars. But in spite of this rigid regulative principle, I'm asking you for the hand of your beautiful daughter just to establish our relationship in return for a great reception of me. You may also be pleased to be informed that in our family tradition there is no scope for our offering anything in exchange for accepting your daughter. We cannot pay any price you may impose for delivering her. In other words, Krishna wanted the hand of Satya from the killing without fulfilling the condition of defeating the 7 bulls.
After hearing the statement of Lord Krishna, King Nagnajit said, My dear Lord, you are the reservoir of all pleasure, all opulences, and all qualities. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Ji, always lives on your chest. Under these circumstances, who can be a better husband for my daughter? Both myself and my daughter have always prayed for this opportunity. You are the chief of the Yadu dynasty. You may kindly know that from the very beginning I have made a vow to marry my daughter to a suitable candidate, one who can come out victorious in the test I have devised. I have imposed this test just to understand the prowess and position of my intended son-in-law. You are Lord Krishna, and you are the chief of all heroes. I am sure you shall be able to bring these 7 bulls under control without any difficulty. Until now, they have never been subdued by any prince. Anyone who has attempted to bring them under control has simply had his limbs broken.
King Nagnajit continued his request. Krishna, if you'll kindly bridle the 7 bulls and bring them under control, then undoubtedly you will be selected as the desired husband of my daughter Satya. After hearing this statement, Krishna could understand that the king did not want to break his vow. Thus, in order to fulfill his desire, he tightened his belt and prepared to fight with the bulls. He immediately divided himself into 7 Krishnas, and each one of them immediately caught hold of a bull and bridled its nose, thus bringing it under control, as if it were a plaything.
Hare Krishna. Krishna's dividing himself into 7 is very significant. It was known to Satya that Krishna had already married many other wives, but still she was attached to Krishna. In order to encourage her, Krishna immediately expanded himself into 7. The purport is that Krishna is one, but he has unlimited forms of expansions. He married many thousands of wives, but this does not mean that while he was with one wife, the other were bereft of his association. Krishna could associate with each and every wife by his expansions.
When Krishna brought the bulls under his control by bridling their noses, their strength and pride were immediately smashed. The name and fame which the bulls had attained was thus vanquished. When Krishna had the bulls bridled, he pulled them strongly, just as a child pulls a toy wooden bull. Upon seeing this advantage of Krishna, King Nagnajit became very much astonished and immediately with great pleasure brought his daughter Satya before Krishna and handed her over to him. Krishna also immediately accepted Satya as his wife. Then there was a marriage ceremony with great pomp. The queens of King Nagnajit were also very much pleased because their daughter Satya got Krishna as her husband. Since the king and queens were very much pleased on this auspicious occasion, there was a celebration all over the city in honor of their marriage. Everywhere were heard the sounds of the conch shell and kettle drum and various other vibrations of music and song. The learned brahmanas showered their blessings upon the newly married couple. In jubilation, all the inhabitants of the city dressed themselves with colorful garments and ornaments. King Nagnajit was so much pleased that he gave a dowry to his daughter and son-in-law as follows.
First of all, he gave them 10,000 cows and 3,000 well-dressed young maidservants, ornamented up to their necks. This system of dowry is still current in India, especially for Kshatriya princes. When a Kshatriya prince is married, at least a dozen maidservants of similar age are given along with the bride. After giving the cows and maidservants, the king enriched the dowry by giving 9,000 elephants and 100 times more chariots than elephants. This means that he gave 900,000 chariots and he gave 100 times more horses than chariots, or 90 million horses, and 100 times more maidservants than horses. Royal princes maintained such menservants and maidservants with all provisions, as if they were their own children or family members. After giving this dowry, the king of Koshala province bade his daughter and great son-in-law be seated on a chariot and allowed them to go to their home, guarded by a division of well-equipped soldiers. As they travelled fast to their new home, the king's heart was enlivened with affection for them.
Before this marriage of Satya with Krishna, there had been many competitive engagements with the bulls of King Nagajit, and many other princes of the Yadu dynasty had of other dynasty as well as tried to win the hand of Satya. When the frustrated princes of the other dynasty heard that Krishna was successful in getting the hand of Satya by stumping the bulls, naturally they became envious. While Krishna was travelling to Dwarka, all the frustrated and defeated princes encircled him and began to shower their arrows on the bridal party. When they attacked Krishna party and shot arrows while inciting torrents of rain, Arjuna, the best friend of Krishna, took charge of the challenge, and he alone very easily drove them all to please his great friend Krishna. On the occasion of his marriage, Arjuna immediately took up his bow, Gandiva, and chased away all the princes exactly as a lion drives away all the small animals. Simply by chasing them, Arjuna drove away all the princes without killing even one of them. After this, the chief of Yadu dynasty, Lord Krishna, along with his newly married wife and the huge dowry, entered the city of Dwarka with great pomp. Krishna then lived there with his wife very peacefully.
Besides Kunti Devi, Krishna had another paternal aunt. Her name was Srutakirti, and she was married and lived in Kekeya province. She had a daughter whose name was Bhadra. Bhadra wanted to marry Krishna, and her brother handed her over to him unconditionally. Krishna accepted her as his bona fide wife. Thereafter, Krishna married a daughter of the king of Madras province. Her name was Lakshmana. Lakshmana had all good qualities. She was also forcibly married by Krishna, who took her in the same way that Garuda snatched the jar of nectar from the hands of the demigods. Krishna kidnapped this girl in the presence of many other princes in the assembly of her Swayamvara. The Swayamvara is a ceremony in which the bride can select her own husband from an assembly of many princes. The description of Krishna's marriage with the 5 girls mentioned in this chapter is not sufficient. He had many other thousands of wives besides them. Krishna accepted the other thousands of wives after killing a demon named Bhaumasura. All these thousands of girls were held captive in the palace of Bhaumasura. and Krishna released them and married them. Thus ends the Bhakti-yoga purport of the 58th chapter of Krishna, 5 queens married by Krishna.
Chapter 59, the deliverance of the demon Bhaumasura. The story of Bhaumasura, how he kidnapped and made captive 16,000 princesses by collecting them from the palaces of various kings, and how he was killed by Krishna, the supreme lord of wonderful character, is all described by Sukadeva Goswami to King Parikshit in Srimad Bhagavatam. Generally, the demons are always against the demigods. This demon, Bhaumasura, having become very powerful, took by force the umbrella from the throne of the demigod Varuna. He also took the earrings of Aditi, the mother of the demigods. He conquered the portion of heavenly Mount Meru, known as Mani Parvat, and occupied it. The king of the heavenly planets, Indra, therefore came to Dwarka to complain about Bhaumasura before Lord Krishna.
Hearing this complaint by Indra, the king of heaven, Lord Krishna, accompanied by his wife Satyabhama, immediately started for the abode of Bhaumasura. The two of them rode on the back of Garuda, who fled them to Pragjyotishapura, Bhaumasura's capital city. To enter the city of Pragjyotishapura was not a very easy task because it was very well fortified. First of all, there were 4 strongholders guarding the 4 direction of the city, which was well protected on all sides by formidable military strength. The next boundary was a water canal all around the city, and in addition, the whole city was surrounded by electric wires. The next fortification was of Anila, a gross substance. After this, there was a network of bordered wire constructed by a demon of the name Mura. The city appeared well protected even in terms of today's scientific advancements.
When Krishna arrived, he broke all the strongholds to pieces by the stroke of his club and scattered the military strength here and there by the constant onslaught of his arrows. With his celebrated Sudarsana Chakra, he counteracted the electrified boundary, annihilated the canals of water and the gaseous boundary, and cut to pieces the electrified network fabricated by the demon Mura. By the vibration of his counsel, he broke the hearts of great fighters and also broke the fighting machines that were there. Similarly, he broke the walls around the city with his invincible club.
The vibration of Lord Krishna's conch shell sounded like a thunderbolt at the time of dissolution of the whole cosmic manifestation. The demon Mura heard the vibration of conch shell, awakened from his sleep, and came out to see what happened. He had 5 heads and had long been living within the water. The Mura demon was as brilliant as the sun. at the time of the dissolution of the cosmos, and his temple was like blazing fire. The effulgence of his body was so dazzling that he was difficult to see with open eyes. When he came out, he first took out his trident and rushed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The demon Mura, in his onslaught, was like a big snake attacking Garuda. His angry mood was very severe, and he appeared ready to devour the three worlds. First of all, he attacked the carrier of Krishna, Garuda, by whirling and then throwing his trident, and through his 5 mouths he vibrated sounds like the roaring of a lion. These roaring vibrations spread all over the atmosphere until they extended all over the world and into our space, up and down, and out to the 10 directions, rumbling throughout the entire universe.
Lord Krishna saw the trident of the Mura demon was rushing toward his carrier Garuda. Immediately, by a trick of his hand, he took 2 arrows and threw them towards the trident, cutting it to pieces. Simultaneously, using many arrows, he pierced the mouth of the demon Mura. When the Mura demon saw himself outmaneuvered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he immediately began to strike the Lord in great anger with his club. But Lord Krishna, with his own club, broke the club of Mura to pieces before it could reach him. The demon, bereft of his weapon, decided to attack Krishna with his strong arms. But Krishna, with the aid of his Sudarshan Chakra, immediately separated the demon's 5 heads from his body. The demon then fell into the water, just as the peak of a mountain falls into the ocean after being struck by the thunderbolt of Indra.
This demon Mura had 7 sons named Tamra, Antariksha, Shravana, Vibhavasu, Vasu, Nabhasvan and Aruna. All of them became puffed up and vengeful because of the death of their father, and in order to retaliate, they prepared in great anger to fight with Krishna. They equipped themselves with necessary weapons and situated Pitha, another demon, to act as commander in the battle. By the order of Bhaumasura, all of them combinedly attacked Krishna.
When they came before Lord Krishna, they began to shower him with many kinds of weapons like swords, clubs, lances, arrows, and tridents. But they did not know that the strength of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unlimited and invincible. Krishna, with his arrows, cut all the weapons of the men of Bhaumasura into pieces like grains. Krishna then threw his weapons, and Bhaumasura's commander-in-chief, Pitha, along with his assistants, fell down, their military dress cut off, and their heads, legs, arms, and thighs severed. All of them were sent to the superintendent of death, Yamaraj.
Bhaumasur, who was also known as Narkasur, happened to be the son of the earth personified. When he saw that all his soldiers, commanders and fighters had been killed on the battlefield by the strokes of the weapons of the personality of Godhead, he became exceedingly angry at the Lord. He then came out of the city with a great number of elephants who had all been born and brought up to the seashore. All of them were highly intoxicated. When they came out, they saw the Lord Krishna and his wife were beautifully situated high in outer space, just like a blackish cloud above the sun, glittering with the light of electricity. The demon Bhaumasur immediately released a weapon called Satangani, by which he could kill hundreds of warriors with one stroke, and all his assistants simultaneously threw their respective weapons at the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, counteracted all these weapons by releasing his feather arrows. The result of this fight was that all the soldiers and commanders of Bhaumasura fell to the ground. Their arms, legs, and hands separated from their trunks, and all their horses and elephants also fell with them. In this way, all the weapons released by Bhaumasura were cut to the pieces by the Lord's earth.
The Lord was fighting on the back of Garuda, who was helping him by striking the horses and elephants with his wings and scratching their heads with his nails and sharp beak. The elephants, feeling much pain from Garuda's attack on them, all dispersed from the battlefield. Bhaumasura alone remained on the battlefield, and he engaged himself in fighting with Krishna. He saw that Krishna's carrier, Garuda, had caused great disturbance to his soldiers and elephants, and in great anger he struck Garuda with all his strength, which defied the strength of a thunderbolt. Fortunately, Garuda was not an ordinary bird, and he felt the strokes given by Bhaumasura, just as a great elephant feels the impact of a garland of flowers.
Bhaumasura thus came to see that none of his tricks would act upon Krishna, and he became aware that all his attempts to kill Krishna would be frustrated. Yet he tried for the last time, taking a trident in his hand to strike him. Krishna was so dexterous that before Bhaumasura could throw his trident, his head was cut off by the sharp Sudarshana chakra. His head, illuminated by earrings and a helmet, fell down on the battlefield. On the occasion of Bhaumasura's being killed by Lord Krishna, all the demon's relatives screamed in disappointment, and the saintly persons glorified the chivalrous activities of the Lord. Taking this opportunity, the denizens of the heavenly planets showered flowers on the Lord.
At this time, Earth personified appeared before Lord Krishna and greeted him with the Vijanti flower garland. She then returned the dazzling earring of Aditi, bedded with the jewels and gold. She also returned the umbrella of Varuna, along with a valuable jewel, which she presented to Krishna. After this, Earth personified offered her prayer to Krishna, the Supreme Personality and the Master of the world, who is always worshipped by the excellent demigods. She fell down in obeisance and in a great devotional ecstasy began to speak. Let me offer
my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who is always present with four symbols, namely his conch shell, disc, lotus, and club, and who is the Lord of all demigods. Please accept my respectful obeisances unto you, my dear Lord. You are the super soul, and in order to satisfy the aspirations of your devotees, you descended to the earth in your various transcendental incarnations, which are just appropriate to the devotees' worshipful desire. Kindly accept my respectful obeisances.
My dear Lord, the lotus flower grows out of your navel, and you are always decorated with a garland of lotus flowers. Your eyes are always spread like the petals of the lotus flower, and therefore they were all pleasing to the eyes of others. Your soft and delicate lotus feet are always worshipped by your unalloyed devotees, and those lotus feet pacify their lotus-like hearts. I therefore respectfully, repeatedly offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
You possess all beauty, strength, fame, property, knowledge, and renunciation. You are the shelter of all six opulences. Although you are all pervading, you have appeared as the son of Vasudeva. Please, therefore, accept my respectful obeisances. You are the original Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Supreme Cause of all cause. Only your Lordship is the reservoirs of all knowledge. Let me offer my respectful obeisances into you. Personally, you are the unborn. Still, you are the father of whole cosmic manifestation. You are the reservoir and shelter of all kings of energies. The manifested appearance of this world is caused of by you. You are both the cause and effect of this cosmic manifestation. Please, therefore, accept my respectful obeisances.
My dear Lord, as for the three gods Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, they are not independent of you. When there is a necessity of creating this cosmic manifestation, you create your passionate appearance of Brahma. And when you want to maintain this cosmic manifestation, you expand yourself as Lord Vishnu, the reservoir of all goodness. Similarly, you appeared as Lord Shiva, master of the mode of ignorance, and thus dissolved the whole creation. You always maintain your transcendental position in spite of creating these three modes of material nature. You are never entangled in these modes of nature as the ordinary living entities are.
Actually, my lord, you're the material nature, you're the father of the universe, and you are the eternal time, which has caused the combination of the elements of the nature and the manifestation of the material creation. Still, you are always transcendental to all these material activities. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know that earth, water, fire, air, sky, and the five sense objects, mind, the senses, and their deities, egoism, and the total material energy, all things animate and inanimate in this phenomenal world, rests upon you. Since everything is produced of you, nothing can be separated from you. Yet, since you are transcendentally situated, nothing material can be identified with your personality. Everything is therefore simultaneously one with you and different from you. And the philosophers who try to separate everything from you are certainly mistaken in their viewpoint. My dear Lord, may I inform you that this boy, whose name is Bhagavad-Gita, is the son of my son, Omasura. He has been very much affected by the ghastly situation created by the death of his father, and has become very much confused and afraid. I have therefore brought him to surrender unto your lotus feet. I request your lordship to give shelter to this boy and bless him with your lotus feet. I bring him to you so that he may be relieved of the reactions of all the sinful activities of his father.
After Lord Krishna had heard the prayers of Mother Earth, He immediately assured her of the immunity from all fearful situations. He said to Bhagadatta, "Don't be afraid." Then he entered the palace of Bhaumasura, which was well equipped with all kinds of opulences. In the palace of Bhaumasura, Lord Krishna saw 16,100 young princes who had been kidnapped and held captive there. When the princes saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna enter the palace, they immediately became captivated by the beauty of the Lord and prayed for his causeless mercy. Within their minds, they decided to accept Lord Krishna as their husband without hesitation. Each one of them prayed to Providence that Krishna might become her husband. Sincerely and seriously, they offered their hearts to the lotus feet of Krishna with an unalloyed devotional attitude. As the super soul in everyone's heart, Krishna could understand their uncontaminated desire, and he agreed to accept them as his wives. Thus he arranged for suitable garments and ornaments for them, and each of them, seated on a palanquin, was dispatched to Dwarka city. Krishna also collected unlimited wealth from the palace, a treasure of chariots, horses, jewels, and so on. He took from the palace 50 white elephants, each with 4 tusks, and all of them were dispatched to Dwarka.
After this incident, Lord Krishna and Satyabhama entered Amaravati, the capital city of the heavenly planet, and they immediately entered the palace of King Indra and his wife, Sachi Devi, who welcomed them. Krishna then presented Indra with the earrings of Aditi.
When Krishna and Satyabhama were returning from the capital city of Indra, Satyabhama remembered Krishna's promise to give her a parijata tree. Taking the opportunity of having come to the heavenly kingdom, she uprooted a parijata tree and placed it on the back of Garuda. Once Narada had taken a parijata flower and presented it to Krishna's senior wife, Sri Rukmini Devi. On account of this, Satyabhama had developed an inferiority complex. She also wanted such a flower from Krishna. Krishna could understand the competitive, womanly nature of his co-wives, and he had smiled. He had immediately asked Satyabhama, "Why are you asking for only one flower? I would like to give you a whole tree of parijata flowers."
Actually, Krishna had purposely taken his wife Satyabhama with him so that she could collect the parijat with her own hand. But the denizens of the heavenly planets, including Indra, were very irritated. Without their permission, Satyabhama had uprooted a parijat tree, which is not to be found on the earth planet. Indra, along with other demigods, offered opposition to Krishna and Satyabhama for taking away the tree. But in order to please his favorite wife Satyabhama, Krishna became determined and adamant. So there was a fight between the between the demigods and Krishna. As usual, Krishna came out victorious, and he triumphantly brought the parijat tree chosen by his wife to the earth planet. In Dwarka, after this, the tree was installed in the palace garden of Satyabhama. On account of this extraordinary tree, the garden house of Satyabhama became extraordinarily beautiful. As the parijat tree came down to the earthly planet, the fragrance of its flower also came down, and the celestial drones migrated to this earth in search of their fragrance and honey. Hare Krishna.
Okay. King Indra's behavior toward Krishna was not very much appreciated by great sages like Shukadeva Goswami. Out of his causeless mercy, Krishna had gone to the heavenly kingdom, Amarvarti, to present King Indra with his mother's earrings, which had been lost to Bhaumasura, and Indra had been very glad to receive them. But when a parijata tree from the heavenly kingdom was taken by Krishna, Indra had fought with him. This was self-interest on the part of Indra. He had offered his prayer, tipping down his head to the lotus feet of Krishna, but as soon as his purpose had been served, he became a different creature. That is the way of the dealings of materialistic men. Materialistic men are always interested in their own profit. For this purpose, they can offer any kind of respect to anyone, but when their personal interest is over, they are no longer friends. This selfish nature is found not only among the richer class of men on this planet, but even in personalities like Indra and other demigods. Too much wealth makes a man selfish. A selfish man is not prepared to take to Krishna consciousness and is condemned by great devotees like Shukadeva Goswami. In other words, possession of too many worldly riches is a disqualification for advancement in Krishna consciousness.
After defeating Indra, Krishna arranged to marry the 16,100 girls brought from the custody of Bhaumasura. By expanding himself into 16,100 forms, he simultaneously married them all in different palaces at the same auspicious moment. He thus established the truth that Krishna and no one else is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is nothing impossible for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is all-powerful, omnipresent, and imperishable, and so there is nothing wonderful in this pastime. All the palaces of the more than 16,000 queens of Krishna were filled with suitable gardens, furniture, and other paraphernalia, to which there is no parallel in this world. There is no exaggeration in this story from Srimad Bhagavatam. The queens of Krishna were all expansions of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Ji. Krishna lived with them in different palaces, and he treated them exactly the same way an ordinary man treats his wife.
We should always remember that the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna was playing exactly like a human being. Although he showed his extraordinary opulences by simultaneously marrying more than 16,000 wives in the more than 16,000 palaces, he behaved with them just like an ordinary man, and he strictly followed the relationship between husband and wife required in ordinary homes. Therefore, it is very difficult to understand the characteristics of the Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead. Even demigod like Brahma are unable to probe into the transcendental pastime of the Lord. The wives of Lord Krishna were so fortunate that they got the Supreme Personality of Godhead as their husband, although their husband's personality was unknown even to the Brahman and the other demigods.
In their dealings as husband and wife, Krishna and his queens would smile, talk, joke, embrace, and so on, and their conjugal relationships ever increasingly develop. In this way, Krishna and the queens enjoyed transcendental happiness in their household wife. Although each and every queen had thousands of maidservants engaged for her service, the queens were all personally attentive in serving Krishna. Each one of them used to receive Krishna personally when he entered the palace. They engaged in seating him on a nice coach, worshipping him with all kinds of paraphernalia, washing his lotus feet with Ganges water, offering him betel nuts and massaging his legs. In this way, they gave him relief from the fatigue he felt after being away from home. They fanned him nicely, offered him fragrant essential floral oil, decorated him with floral garlands, dressed his hair, asked him to lie down to take rest, bathed him personally and fed him palatable dishes. Each queen did all these things herself and did not wait for the maid servants. In other words, Krishna and his different queens displayed on this earth an ideal household life. Thus ends the Bhakti-yoga purport of the 59th chapter of Krishna, the deliverance of the demon Bhaumasura.
So this concludes our 1 hour reading to Srila Prabhupada, and we'd like to invite everyone to come back again next Sunday, chapter 50. What's the name? Chapter 60, the name of the chapter? Talks between Krishna and Rukmini. So let us all offer our obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paskachadi Shatarne. And to each other, Vanchakalpaturuscha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Tita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Krishna Book. Hari Bol.